renewable energies. In this book there is a page about it, and there said that there are non-renewable and the renewable energies. The non-renewable are non-renewable in human lifetimes. They need thousands or millions of years to be produced. For example, oil or coal out of organic material that takes millions of years until it is there. Renewable energies are energies which can be made with the power of the sun. For example, because the sun is in human terms always burning something. And the book is listing then some examples. And there's one is said that are hydroelectric dams. So there is a river taken, a dam built, and when the dam is pressing against the dam, it is standing there. And then they have a turbine, so a pipe, in which there is a propeller and the water is pressing through it. And then the propeller is made in a way that the blades are in a way that it is turning when it is pressing against it, and then it is turning. And that is the whole fundamental concept of generating electricity, that something is made to turn. It can be also a human just turning something, but it is now here used with water pressing through it, making the blades turn. And then inside of it there's a generator. I don't know exactly, but there's iron in and then copper around it, and there is a magnetic power between them, because there is just one, and whenever that magnetic field is interfering with the other magnetic field of the copper and the iron or somehow, that generates electricity. That is the magic behind it. It is just copper, iron turning inside of copper, and they are interfering with the magnetism against each other, and that generates just electricity. That is how it works. So that can be done with such a dam. Some disadvantages are that a valley can be flooded and that animals cannot live there, or that humans have to move to other places, or holy places are flooded. So there is also some destruction of wildlife. It rises a lake. Maybe people like to go there, and also other animals can live there. Maybe fishing is possible. So there are some disadvantages, but also with that can be made renewable energy, because water is more or less always raining somewhere down and flowing through the river. That is a renewable energy, and that way there can be made a turbine to run with a renewable energy, and it also doesn't need, as soon as it is standing, to burn something. So no resources are needed to deliver them there with trains or pipes, because it's the water coming with the rain is delivered as the material which is used to make the turbine going. So now bringing of coal or other things, nothing to burn, no smoke, just the rain falling down, flowing through the river, for some time standing there in the lake, making big pressure, and when the turbine is turning, generating electricity. Something similar would be tidal turbines. They are then set into the ocean, and the moon is out in the sky and is making tides. It is pulling at the earth, and then the water is going with it. And then 2 times a day there's the water coming in and out again. And that incoming of the water and out can be used to bring it again through a pipe, making again a generator running and generate electricity. That can have also an influence on the habitat life, on the wildlife. And it's also expensive to make them, and there are not many places in the world where it is possible, because it has to be done at places where tide is possible. And another thing that's said in the book is geothermal energy. Inside of the earth there's a big area that is very hot, with hot iron, and that can come higher up to the surface, where there are then volcans or some things, and that magma that can heat also water areas, and then that hot water can be taken out of the earth, and one has then hot water to heat or other things. And there's also some pressure and so on going on. I don't know exactly, the book isn't saying it. So there's also heat, and heat is the beginning of doing things. That is the fundamental basis of making all the steam things. Water is heated, and when it's heated it evaporates, it creates an incredible amount of pressure, because it is getting hot, it can't be stopped, it is getting hot, and it will expand with incredible pressure, and that is when pressing also through a pipe, through a turbine. Again, the same principle, a turbine pressing through, or like with railways and trains made the same way. It is again the vapor of the water pressing through something or against something, and that turns also the train and so on. And then 2 more things are said, and they can be seen here. One of them is wind. So here's wind blowing right now from here, from the south west, and it's coming up there, and that wind turbine is standing in that direction, and the wind is pressing again against the blades. They are not standing frontal, but I don't know exactly. They are standing in a way that the wind is pressing against them and it is turning. Same principle, it is turning. Inside of it is electricity generated. And there's also the a disadvantage to a geothermal first. Disadvantage is that there are not many places where that is possible, because in many places of the world there are no volcans and no geothermal activity in the ground close enough to the surface. Now with the wind, there's not always wind, but there's oftentimes wind, so they are not completely constant. If there's not wind, then that is not generating electricity. But here right now it is turning, and inside of it is electricity generated. And it is standing here outside a bit. Here are a lot of fields. One cannot see all too much, but here is nothing directly here, and nothing also for a few hundred meters, and there's a little village, but here's nothing really going on. And one can also not hear it here. Now we are standing now against the wind, but a little disadvantage the book is naming too is that some people find it not so beautiful to see. It can be seen a bit from the south side, a bit where city is, but here's no one really able to see it. But there are places, and some people don't like to see it if they actually are not in their houses, leave their houses, and are not in the city and somewhere in the open. If people actually are doing that, then they can see it, and some people don't like to see it. It's there almost pretty directly next to a mill which is standing there since 1000 years, also almost directly standing it in the landscape. Down there are more offshore things, there are more standing. They can be seen by many people, so maybe some people don't like to see them. That is a disadvantage, that some people don't like it to see it. The wind is not always there. Yes, that. And then the next thing in the book named are solar things. There is the sun shining as it is right now doing, and it's shining onto them. They are made into that direction, that would be the south, and that makes sense. This is here in Britain, so a bit northern half on the earth. And the sun is most of the times a bit more in the southern part, I think. And there is the sun coming. The sun is actually there. A person can feel it, and it is actually there. These are photons. They don't have mass, so they're incredibly fast. They travel with the speed of light. They are incredibly fast, traveling at 300,000 kilometers per second, but they are something. And these are something, these photons are coming against these solar things. And then there's something happening in them. These are semiconductors. I don't know exactly about them, but in general, semiconductors. There is silicon together with phosphor, and on the other side of the solar plate, there is silicon and boron. And this is a trick done with the elements. Phosphorus has, I think, 5 electrons on the outside shell, and boron 3, I think, or it was something similar. And now the photon is coming. It doesn't have mass, but it is doing something to the silicon and phosphorus. It is pressing against the 1 electron, which is there too much. I think silicon has 4 and phosphorus 5. They have 9, and they only want 8. They have 9. And the photon is coming and hitting one of these electrons and is bringing it over to the other side of the layer, to the silicon and boron. They have just 7, they want 1, and the photon is bringing the 1 electron too much to the other side. That is the whole trick. There are 2 things, 2 substances, silicon and phosphorus, 1 electron too much, silicon and boron, 1 too little. The photon, the sun is just shining onto it, the photon is hitting 1 electron, it is brought over to the other side. And whenever there is an electron moving, that is a moving charge, and it is possible to make out of that electricity. I think that is already electricity per definition. That is what is happening there. The sun is shining, a photon hits 1 of the 9 electrons, which are too much. It comes to the other side, there are 7, now 8, and it is working. And electricity was generated, and that is happening there. Now, a disadvantage is that there are some places where it's more cloudy. This is in Britain, here is it often cloudy. Right now there's again a cloud before the sun, and it's not so much, but there's wind is still blowing. Having combined these two, there's oftentimes outbalances if there are problems. Here's seldomly a day where it is not windy anyway, so these turbines are working almost always, and there's seldomly a day where it is not sunny and not wind. So there's almost always one of the two running. Actually, oftentimes even both. So this is here, and there there is when more than with the electricity. I don't know what is going on there, but that is part of it. And it's standing here on the big field. Now, these are renewable energies, so energies which can be created new because the sun is, in human terms, forever burning and is doing things with the ground. It is heating up the air, and when the air is rising and wind is blowing, it is exciting with the photons, the electrons, and the solar is running. And it's also heating up the air, water is rising up, raining down, and then washed through rivers over behind dams. So there are some energies can be used, stored in the earth, accumulated there for billions of years, with the dinosaurs and plants dying and so on, and under high pressure and heat formed to coal and oil, and they can be burned up. And there are other forms of energy in this world which are created through the sun out there in the sky and the space, always flooding the world with energy, enormous heat and energy, which are all the time, in human terms, forever flooding the whole earth. So that are renewable energies. The basics of that according to Geography by Jane Ferretti and Brian Gressley on the page 102. The positions and views expressed are the ones of the source and don't necessarily align with my own or with the ones of the entities spoken of.